right, so I'm gonna go live.
If you don't really understand government,
we are getting ready for the big.
All right, so what's going on? And we are live on YouTube and Facebook and on IG right now. And so you're having a show with me. It's April, on Talk Your with SincerelyB. Normally I'm here on Wednesdays, but I am here on a Thursday. I had to bless Dr. Miller on a Thursday, okay? It was me and not Dr. Miller that couldn't get it together. So he is here on YouTube. So if you're on YouTube, join me on YouTube under SincerelyB blogging, or you can go on also Facebook and follow me there. He's going to join me on IG in a second, but if you're on YouTube right now, you can catch us there live. So give us 1 second and we're going to get you guys started. Are you in there, Dr. Miller?
No, I'm waiting for the little invite.
You need me to send you the invite? Okay.
Yeah, send me the invite, and I'm gonna jump. I'm gonna jump right on.
Let's see.
Send that joint to me, and I'm gonna come right up in here.
There we go. All right. See, we're inviting him right now. All right, we got you going. Please share this live. He definitely has a message. Okay. I don't know if you guys have children. If Christmas is over, but the gift can always keep giving. Is that right, Dr. Miller?
Man, we can. Christmas, Kwanzaa, Easter, Arbor Day. Our children are behind when it comes to reading and writing, and so we got to get it in.
Right. I mean, we are. We're gonna get into that conversation, but for right now, I just want to. I'm gonna tell you to turn your volume down some on the YouTube because you're getting the feedback on the side with the IG.
So you want me to turn what down?
Turn down your volume on your phone on your laptop. I'm sorry, hon. On your laptop.
On my laptop.
Yeah, there you go. Turn it down some.
What about right there?
Okay. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, great. See, there's the feedback. We just solved the issue. Technology at its best, right?
We done worked it out.
And it took just us two. We made it work out. So I'm going to start off, and first, thank you for joining me here on YouTube, on Facebook Live, and also here on Instagram as we talk to you about your book. But I also want to let you guys know this is a talk show that I have on IG that's generally for anybody and everybody for free. You can come and talk to me here. It's called Talk Your with SincerelyB. All I need is your information, your bio. If you have a book, if you need a pat on the back, we definitely gonna need a lot of pats on the back considering what's going on in the world. So if you need to come here and vent, I am here. Let me be your ventor, your motivator, your mentor, whatever you need to be. I'm here on Wednesdays at 6:30. I typically come on here live on 6:30, but I've kind of moved into the spectrum of being on YouTube and also being more on Facebook as well, and then having it on my website. So make sure you guys go and check out SincerelyBblogging.com because it is live, okay? So let's go ahead and start with, I'm going to crack my knuckles because it's been a minute, get myself together with Dr. Miller. How are you doing?
Look, any day above ground, I'm batting 1,000.
I know that's right. I tell that to people a lot of times that, there's people in the hospital that wish they could be doing the things that we're doing, but they can't. So at the end of the day, I am not mad. I'm happy. I'm blessed. It is what it is. So if you've seen my show before, right, then you should know that I start off with icebreakers. Have you seen my show before?
I have not. I saw some of it. You had my good brother Murphy from Black Paper on, I think in December.
Shout out to Black Paper. He is amazing. Go check him out. He is here on IG as well. Got the best t-shirts ever. He's also in he's in a store as well. So yeah, go downtown locker room, I want to say. So go and check him out. Go check him out. All right. So look, here's the icebreaker. I typically do an icebreaker so we can get to know each other a little bit more personally. And people can kind of get to know you a little bit more personally before we start talking business. All right. So here's my icebreaker for you. Music lover, or lover of books? It's got to be one
That's
or
a
the
tough
other. You
one.
can't.
That's a
Yeah, I always get somebody. Always stomp somebody some way. So which one?
That's a real hard question. Because I love both books and music, and I don't read without music. I don't write without music. So when I'm working on a book, I'm listening to music. If I'm reading a book, I'm listening to music. So that's a tough one. But if you were to force me, I'm more a lover of books than
Yes.
music.
Okay, I love that. I love that. Okay. And then for you to listen to music, we're gonna get into that too, some more. That to listen to music, it gives you that little extra jolt of motivation. You hear that note. Okay, let me not. Okay. Next. Speaking of motivation or dedication, which one is important?
Again, you asking some real tough questions, motivation or dedication. I think dedication being able to stay focused on a task, whether it's raising your family, whether it's career, being dedicated and going 120. Many of us go 30%, 40%, and we wonder why we're not getting what we want. So dedication is extremely important.
Yeah. All right. So I got one more tough one for you because I feel like, in a sense, this was supposed to be you. Okay, this was your calling. All right, before we got these books, doctor, lawyer.
Actually, I wanted to go to law school. I think after the first time I got arrested, I remember me and some of my friends were sitting in a cell in East Baltimore, and we talked about going to law school. Like, if we get out of this predicament that we in, man, I'm going to law school. So I would say I wanted to go to law school. That was my first, and I wanted to be a civil rights attorney. So that was my first ambition. I did a fellowship on Capitol Hill. So I was already kind of being groomed for, politics and law as an undergraduate student.
See, look at that. Don't ask me how I know all this stuff. And all you gave me was your bio.
Right.
All right, so look, I want you to tell people a little bit. Tell the people on Talk Your Silly B a little bit about yourself that don't know you. So kind of give us a root of something that people wouldn't typically know about you. And then, and we'll dive into more of the conversation, but give us some more about who is Dr. Miller.
So I am the youngest of Peter and Carol Miller. Both my parents are deceased. My dad became an ancestor in July. I took care of my dad for the last 3.5 years of his life. I was my dad's primary caregiver. The most rewarding experience of my life. My parents brought me into this world, and being able to take care of my dad, although it was rough because he had dementia. It wasn't no walk in the park, but it was a profoundly deep experience being able to take care of my dad. I am from what I call the mean but loving streets of Baltimore. I'm a product of West Baltimore. Currently live in Southeast Washington, D.C. Oftentimes,
okay, DC. I said, okay, DC. Okay, DC.
Yeah, living in DC, and I want to talk about a project that I'm gonna be working on soon. Was a horrible student growing up. So for parents who have that young brother in your household, and he just don't seem like he getting it together academically or socially, that was me. If you looked at some of my report cards, and oftentimes when I go to a school and talk to students or I have a speaking engagement, I show people elementary, middle, high school grades. Nothing about my grades said anything about college, right? So even when I was able to interact with some of my teachers years later, they thought I was going to go to prison versus college. So I didn't have a strong K-12 academic career. But my best friend was shot and killed standing next to me. And that really got me on a path where I need to get this thing together. I was accepted to the only school that accepted me was Wilberforce University, right outside of Dayton, Ohio. Had some trouble there, some challenges, came back to Baltimore. My man was at Morehouse. He had come back home during the summer, and we were standing in front of a nightclub. Some guys tried to rob us. We ain't had what they wanted, so they started shooting. I lived. He died. So that started me on a serious trajectory of getting this thing together, trying to read anything I could get my hands on. And so literally, I turned tragedy into triumph, holding my best friend in my arms. Again, I was at Morgan State. He was at Morehouse. I lived, died. And so that really catapulted me on a quest. Read everything I could get my hands on, writing, connecting with thought leaders around the country. And so that's how I started writing children's books.
Okay, so let's go back a little bit. So it sounds like your past did resonate to you to get to where you're at right now, for you to be so enthusiastic to kind of teach other children where you were to where you at now, in a sense. But it is taught in a kiddie way, right? That they can kind of understand, like, hey, look, if you do this, you can potentially get there. I know, like, sometimes as parents, we tend to be like, okay, look, we push you, go be a lawyer, go be a doctor, go be successful, but we never push you to be like, okay, go be a writer, go be, a seamstress, things that may be more of a creative, attribute versus those high energy, high stressful jobs. So for you to go through all of that to now writing children's books, it just brings you to, and no matter what your background may have been, you can still come out of it. So if you want to come out and be a seamstress, because a lot of kids just aren't getting that knowledge, right? Mm-hmm. At the end of the day. And I have 3. So, you have to stay in tune with the world and kind of have an idea of what's going on in the world, but then also feed what you learned in your life into these books. So here's my question for you. Why, you already told us why a writer, and I already said I felt like you wanted to be a doctor. But how important is it for you now with your books that you have to have the illustration to match up with the conversation that you're having in these books, to try to get these children to be on this, to understand what you're reading, but also visualize it as well?
Yeah, so great question. So before I answer that, let me just say my first classroom was always my home. And see, we get this thing twisted. Parents are your first teachers. And so I had 2 amazing parents who made sure that even though I wasn't a solid academic student, I was a strong reader. I just didn't like school. I didn't feel like I needed to be in school. And definitely by the time I got to middle or high school, I felt like school was a waste of time. But they connected me to books. I remember being in high school, I would cut school and go to the Pratt Library in Baltimore. And that's how I discovered books on Malcolm X or Marcus Garvey or Murray Baraka or Zora Neale Hurston, because I wasn't getting that in school. And so one of the things that I was very clear about when my children were younger, my children are young adults. My baby girl is finishing up at North Carolina A&T University, go Aggie.
See,
that when my children were younger, we didn't really see a lot of images of Black and brown children in children's books. And so I became critically concerned, because unless you went to a Black bookstore, like a Sankofa bookstore in DC that's been open over 20 years, or in Everyone's Place in Baltimore, or Hakeem's bookstore in Philadelphia that's been celebrating 45 years, unless you go to a Black-owned bookstore, the choices that we had, 20, my son is 24, my oldest daughter's 28, your options were very limited in terms of empowering, stories about Black children with great storylines, great imagery, and great characters. Your story, your images and your access to these books were very limited. So I set on a quest that I was going to write my own children's books, whether I got a deal from Simon & Schuster or Random House or anybody else, because I've always lived in Black communities where there's been a thirst for quality children's books with amazing illustrations. And that's what I wanted to deliver, whether I was validated by, mainstream publishing houses or not, that I was going to set out on this mission to produce, high quality, children's books. And this is my newest book, Charlie Drew and His Missing Stethoscope. Young Charlie is 11 years old. He's a genius, and he's in his first year of medical school at Howard University. I want children to dream.
Right. So with your books like that, though, how do you want them to dream, but how do you make it match? So you're like, okay, your dream has been revealed. How tough is it for the illustrations to just match so they can have that perception and twist that perception into that can be me as they're reading that book? We grew up with books that was like, okay, I want to be a firefighter. You see a firefighter driving the truck. Okay, you read the red fire truck is going to save a person's life. How do you now, because you're trying to reach the Black and brown community, how do you make it that you're able to get that message? Not just saying, hey, look, firefighters can be us. We can be a firefighter too, but just also, again, other different types, because I think sometimes we do, and there's nothing wrong with us. I think we do such high level hopes, like I was saying, for kids. It's like, look, go be a basketball player, go be a doctor, a lawyer, but just starting to be like, hey, look, here's how a seamstress, because a lot of these kids nowadays are into fashion and computer. And so how would you articulate your visual for the illustration of the wording to articulate that, like how you did in the book with the Dr. Drew, but just still, if it's something on a lower scale, how can you make sure that message is getting across?
So when I write a book, it's a whole production. It's a dance. I start with character development. So when you look at young Charlie Drew, when I started to develop the character Charlie Drew and his parents, and all of my books, you see a strong influence on Black fathers, because oftentimes you don't see Black fathers in children's literature. It's a production from the storyline. I make sure that I want to create stories that are exciting to children, because we know that we have to, those of us who are writers, we have to compete with cell phones. So first and foremost, the storyline has to be unique enough that a young person would even want to read it. So the storyline is important. The illustrations are important. I hand select and vet primarily young Black male illustrators, because most of my books have been targeted toward young Black male readers, because we know boys tend to lag behind when it comes to writing and reading. When we talk about the storyline, I always have a story arc. So in this particular book, Charlie Drew and His Missing Stethoscope, the story arc is he actually loses his stethoscope. It's a $400 stethoscope, and he has a moral dilemma. Do I tell my parents I lost the stethoscope, or do I figure out a way to raise money? Do I create a GoFundMe campaign? Do I go out and cut grass or rake leaves? Do I try to borrow the money? So he's also dealing with the issue of morality. Do I tell my parents the truth, or do I lie to them and do I lie to them and not tell them that I lost the stethoscope? So in all of my books, I try to uplift things like morality, honesty. I try to uplift these critically important virtues that children need to be successful in society. So again, when I think about my writing process, developing the characters, I might spend 3 weeks just on character development alone. Then I might spend another month or so trying to figure out who's going to be the illustrator. And then I might spend another, couple of weeks going into schools, pitching my story. So for example, I was just in Newark, New Jersey a couple months ago, pitching a story to some 3rd and 4th graders. And I got the thumbs up from the 3rd and 4th graders. Then I go back into the lab and refine the story. So it's literally a production when I write a story.
All right. I like you saying that. All right. So in your press release, I read that you have cultivating intelligence and curiosity among students is crucial to instill a passion for reading. We must provide we must provide books with relatable storylines, like we've just been discussing, empowering themes, powerful illustrations, and fun characters to engage them truly. So you guys need to make sure y'all read these, get yourself some books, for these little ones, especially from Dr. Miller. And I'm glad I'm asked that question because I just had to reiterate what you already announced in the press release about why it's so important to actually have these different types of attributes within the book, so people, even adults, I mean, it does, books aren't an age. I tell people that because you get something out of anything. So it can be just something little, and out of that little bit, you can get something bigger. So don't look at it as like, okay, it may be a dilemma. Thank you. Let me pin it for you. It may be a dilemma for, one person, but you go read a book about a kid doing it, and it's like, okay, well, the kid had to go through the same struggle. So it's not something with an age with it. All right, so you have a lot of black males. Why is the message so not just so important to the black males, but for families or even a single mother? How can a single mother, get information out of reading these books? How important is it for that mom of a single black son to say, hey, look, this book is very important, and I think you'll get some real morals, concepts about why you should tell me, to uplift her and be like, you know what, getting these books and each book that you write will bring that message home to that child.
So super quickly, while most of the books that I've written are targeted toward boys, I do have some books for girls, and have a new book, if you go to my website, that people can pre-order, that's going to be coming out. I learned so many important moral messages in books growing up. Again, even though I was not a good student, and even though I felt at times disconnected from the learning environment, when I would go to the library, I learned a lot of moral messages in books. And so I think what's super important is we got to get away from mom and dad in one room, or mom in one room watching Housewives of Atlanta and the children in the other room on the phone or doing something else. Parents and children should come together and read together. There may be a book that mom is reading. There may be a book that dad is reading. There may be a book that grandma is reading, but it needs to be something that families do together. So after the child finishes reading the book or starts to read the book, there can be some conversations around, what did you read? What did I read? I'm looking at the cover of the book. When I do school visits, one of the first questions that I ask children, look at the cover and tell me what you think is happening in this story just based on the cover. There's some techniques that families can do within their own homes to cultivate reading, to improve vocabulary, to improve fluency, and to improve confidence. A lot of times, children don't have confidence in reading because they spend most of their time on their phone. And so I'm on a mission to compete with cell phones. If you go to my website and look at some of my books, I've written some of the dopest stories that children and parents can connect to. And I have a whole bunch of other books that'll be coming out relatively soon. I got a book that's going to be coming out sometime probably toward the end of this year around go-go music.
Oh,
because
you struck a nerve there.
One of the things that I also try to uplift is to give young people a sense of history. Go-go is a beautiful art form that most people outside of the DMV, the DC, Maryland, Virginia area don't really know a lot about. And so I'm doing a story about a family, well, actually a family, but some young people, some children who started a go-go band in their backyard. And so it's going to be a great project. I just met with the sister who curated the Go-Go Museum in DC. Our children are not getting a healthy dose of history. And so those are some of the other things that I'm trying to do in my storytelling and in my writing.
So since you said the go-go thing, because I'm born and raised in DC, I'm a Washingtonian. Okay. So I love that aspect. So when you start thinking about that, you have the Go-Go Museum and there's deep rooted history with it. And you know, there are different types of tiers of go-go bands that we have in the DMV area. And for those that are watching this District of Columbia, Maryland, and Virginia, so that we call it DMV. But do you feel that you're going to get some inside or resource information from some of those legendary bands that we had back in the day? You know, you have Big G, who we call from Backyard, and then you have you know, all these other bands. You know, I can't name them
Rare
all, but
Essence, EU,
Rare
Low Benny.
Essence, you know, Secret Society. I mean, all of these different types of bands. You have one that's a female lead singer, and the rest is male band. Do you think you're going to get some of their feedback inside of the book to help you,
For
you know,
sure.
promote it more?
When I do research on a book, I go all in because I want children and parents to really understand. And so when I go back, I just want to go back to Charlie Drew, my new book. Most people are not even familiar with who Charles Drew was. He taught at Howard University. He was a member of Omega Psi Phi, so Omega Psi Phi has reached out to me, and I've been doing some work with them around the book. But he also created a way to store blood plasma, which saved lives in World War II. And he's somebody who's almost never talked about during, you know, Black History Month or history in general. So that's one of the reasons why I want to do a book with some young people who discover go-go and have created a go-go band, because this notion of history is so critically important. One of my most popular books is called Chef Toussaint, and it was voted most popular or best children's book pre-K through fourth grade through the American Library Association, the Black Caucus of the American Library Association, and the lead character is named after Toussaint Louverture, the Haitian revolutionary. Because how many people are walking around who know who Toussaint Louverture was, right? In Winnie the Wizard of Wall Street, that book is dedicated to Magdalena Walker, first Black woman, first Black person to own a bank in the United States, 1908, Richmond, Virginia. So I try to take a backdoor approach to introducing history to our children.
And I love how you're doing that too as well, because like you said, a lot of the individuals that you're writing about to transition them into your book, we don't hear on a regular. We hear the same, I hate to say it, the same old, right? So, you know, that too can help empower, like you're saying, not just the kid, but also the family. That's why I said you can read a book, and a book doesn't have to just be like, it's just rated G, but I can still probably get something out of there to touch myself to say, yep, I remember doing that. And why did I stop doing that? It's just those little key words. Because I love writing. I'm a writer. So I love trying to find a way to wordsmith, as we would say, to make it so, you know, so real and passionate that you can just remember and keep that little nugget that you may get out of the book. And in your case, it can be the colors. Those kids can be learning colors. Like, okay, I love the color blue, you know. All right, even the ones that are going to school at Howard or other HBCUs that are going to school for doctors. It's like, okay, well, you know, they on student loans, and if they lose something that's $400, do they really want to go, you know, go tell their parents, hey, look, I lost that? And then it still gives, you still get that same insight that the child would need, that adult will need. All right, so children, we touched on this too, and this will be the last one, and then you can also tell people more about yourself. But children are now more on a digital footprint. How do you find yourself competing with that online? Are you going to be still doing, are you just going to be straight paper copy, or are you going to be digital because kids are digital, or are you just going to just, you know, like I said, keep it standard and just be different, and the only way to get it is out of the bookstore or reach one, teach one type of activity? How do you foresee yourself handling that?
So we're not getting away from books, hardback, paperback. I am going to be adding some digital. We're going to be doing some like digital animation related things to kind of introduce parents to books, but children need books. outside of the tablets, the iPad, the iPhone, the Android, or whatever. It's something about having a book in your hand. And so we are going to. I'm a purist. I love books, and so we're going to stick with paperback and hardback. But we are going to be doing some. We're going to be bringing some of our characters to life through digital animation, so that when teachers present the characters, they will have some digital flavor that they can share with young people.
I love that. That's amazing. I mean, you don't get too many Black writers that want to really, they want to give and teach, but it's like at what level? So I love that you're at this level, that even that you're building such a relationship with the parents, again, with the kids. And again, everyone knows it starts in the house. Okay. Everything starts from home. You taught from home, you go to school, you use what you was taught from home in school, and you come back home and teach us what you learned in school for the day. So I think a lot of times everybody's missed that, everything's social media. And that's why I had to ask that question about how important is it for you to make sure that it's still hard book or paperback, and not so much trying to compete with the digital media of it, if we're trying to really have the children to try to, give back that, tug of war with, instead of a digital, application than a book. I'd rather for you to tug of war me with a book than, something such as an iPhone or whatever platform or toy they're utilizing. So tell us more before you leave out. What else? How can they find you? And are you currently in any schools, or how are you, getting yourself around to those parts?
So super quickly, thanks for the opportunity to jump on your platform. You can go to my website, IamDavidMiller.com. Let me just give a shout out really quickly. There are some really dope children's book authors around the country who don't get a lot of love. A lot of times, there's just some amazing children's book authors out here who may never get a deal with Simon & Schuster or Random House. I'm good with that. If I never get a deal, I'm going to still produce quality children's books, because when I go to a school, it's like Jay-Z done walked in the building. The kind of love. I was just in Newark a couple weeks ago. I'll be in East Orange. I'll be back in New York City. I gotta go to Eugene, Oregon at the end of February. And so what my shout out is, support Black and brown creators, because oftentimes, whether we're writing, whether we're making films, a lot of times we're not getting support from the major, publishing houses and film houses. Oftentimes people say to me, when they look at my books, they can't believe that I'm self-published, because all of my stuff is very well written, high quality. And so that's the shout out. The other thing is, if you look at the data on reading, our children are behind, y'all. So regardless of who's in the White House, or Blue House, whatever house, we got to lean all the way in when it comes to our children. If you look at the data from the National Assessment for Educational Progress, particularly Black boys were behind in reading, writing, and math before COVID. COVID just lifted the hood up. COVID lifted the hood up for us to get a better understanding of what's happening. So we got to lean in. Reading and writing is important. Getting books in the hands, quality books in the hands of children, doing more projects in terms of like I'm doing a project in Atlanta, Real Dads Read with Fathers Incorporated, helping dads understand the critical importance of reading with their children. These are the things that we need to start doing. We got to lean all the way in. Again, go to my website, IamDavidMiller.com. I'm just one of a number of what I consider to be dope children's book authors out here that are doing really impactful work. I'm doing a major project. I'm releasing a book in Ghana in May. So I'm going to Ghana with 2,500 books. We're just going to be rolling around in a truck, going to some of the villages that I already, do some work in. So again, you can support me. IamDavidMiller.com.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing. I mean, kudos to you, and I feel like if there are a lot of publishers or book companies that are currently out here now, especially these brown, you have the mahogany books, you should be out there reading to them kids and trying to figure out, hey, look, mahogany, I need you to have me in here when you guys are having a story time to push your book, because that's important. You know, networking is everything. And I think a lot of times us as Black people, we tend to not utilize our network. We always use to try to get ahead instead of trying to share. So, you know, here's to me sharing. All right. You guys can come on here anytime on Talk with Sincerely B. And just like Dr. Miller, promote yourself. I don't charge anything. You just let me know when you're available. You send me your bio and your information, and you are here. So it was a pleasure talking to you finally.
Well, thank you. And a shout out to Mahogany, Derek, and Ramunda. I get a lot of love from Black bookstores across the country. So thank you so much.
All right. You have a great evening. And you guys make sure y'all go www.iamdavidmiller.com to go and get your next book. And also get Dr. Drew. All right.
I'm gonna put it up really quickly. Charlie Drew.
Yes.
And I'm dropping a new book for really looking at mindfulness and helping our little girls deal with anger. The title of it is Yatunde, the Yogi. Just an amazing book. You can go to my website for more information.
I know that's right. Plug it out. Keep plugging. All right. We'll see you soon, Dr. Miller. Have a good night. All right. Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. I got to run because I got to jump on another meeting.
All right. Well, you have a great evening. I hope you enjoyed yourself.
Thanks a lot.
All right. Bye.